All right, good afternoon. It is Wednesday, March 6, 2024, and look, free agency is underway in Motown. Detroit Lions are making moves. They've already brought back Emmanuel Mosley as part of the DB room from last season that didn't really pan out, so they're giving it a second shot. And now today, according to multiple reports, Jerry Jacobs, his tender option will not be picked up. He is currently a restricted free agent, but what this means is Detroit could have offered him a right of first refusal tender, which would have been a 1 year, $2.985 million contract. Jacobs would then be either free to sign the tender or seek a better deal elsewhere. And again, according to reports coming out of Detroit, that Detroit would have had an opportunity to match whatever offer that he would have found in free agency. And I can't imagine that it would be a ton, but there's still potential that Jerry Jacobs could be signed to a lower deal than the tender. I mean, I've been on record saying a few weeks ago that I did not expect Jerry Jacobs to be back, but I did consider the fact that would he be willing to come back to the team in a non-starting role and get through camp. And I think I'm going to stick with my guns on this one and think that Jerry Jacobs probably thinks that he can play at an elite level still in the NFL and can play with a bigger role somewhere else. I think that, based on the reports that we've been, reporting to everybody, is that Jeremy Fowler, out of Indianapolis, while we were there during camp, reported that, or during the combine, reported that the Lions are the biggest players for a free agent corner and a top tier corner at that. We expected the tag and trade option, with Snead. I mean, that was all the way back February 20th is when I had brought that to everybody's attention, that he would most likely be tagged. So it's still fluid, right? It's always fluid in the NFL. Things are always changing. And that's the fun part of this time of the year, is that 1 minute it's one thing and the next minute it could be something totally different. The goal is you don't rest your hat on quote unquote sources to say that it's gonna happen and then it doesn't 40 times in a row. So what I would say is this: Jerry Jacobs, I think he's seen his last days in Detroit. I think the Lions are really trying to amplify what they've done in this DB room. They started to last season. It did not work out. I don't think that Emmanuel Mosley is anywhere near starting quality. He's got a long way to go to battle back, to be able to even be somewhat consistent on the field. He really hasn't played ball in 2 seasons. He's been through some practices. So, a couple weeks ago in that same video on the 20th of February, I mentioned Awuzie. I thought Awuzie would be a great option if Higgins was tagged. And I mentioned that Higgins would be tagged over Awuzie, and that's what happened. So there's still that option out there. And I also believe in that same video, I mentioned that Chris Jones would not be tagged and, that Snead would be. So all of these fluid situations that we're going to continue to report on and that will be happening, over the next several days. I mean, you got 4 days when the tampering period opens, and it's going to be crazy. And there's going to be a ton of rumors. The difference is differentiating between a rumor and a lie, and making sure that the information that we give and get and receive and report on is going to be as accurate as possible. Otherwise, we're not going to report it. So Jerry Jacobs doesn't appear to be back in 2024. I can't say that I'm not surprised. It was expected. I just hope that Brad Holmes really jumps out and does something, that's been reported by multiple people, and that they're really looking to amplify this DB room. You guys know, my record is real clean in the fact that I thought that this offseason was going to be spent in the DB room again for the second season in a row. I thought that free agency was going to have the most opportunity for the Lions again this season, and it's shaping up that way. There's not a whole lot of DBs that have been tagged. Matter of fact, I think there's only been 2. And I thought back, in mid-February that Jalen Johnson would be tagged too. And so even though I would have loved for the Lions to pick him up and steal him away from Chicago, it's not going to happen. At least right now, it's not going to happen unless Chicago decides to bow out, which we doubt. So, hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Didn't expect anybody to jump in today. Tracy, El Torre, Richard Fleerman, Curtis Wilson, Better the Hunt, Braylon Dennis, Andrew Jackson. Any relation? Just kidding. So yeah, welcome back. We had internet drop out last night. It was weird. It was like the power went out. Andy, of course the internet goes out when the power goes out, but the internet didn't come back. Power came back right away. It was weird. It was like a flash, and like everybody was out in this whole area. So yeah, kind of weird. Tracy says, Will, I saw a video on Adam Schefter's page that said Aaron Donald would be a free agent. Can't find anything else on this. I'll take a look into it. I can't say that I've looked into Aaron Donald at all. I really haven't. I actually haven't really spent much time with the Rams digging into any of their situation this year because I've been so focused on some of the other things. Here's the thing that I do notice about some of those Twitter pages. Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter will post something and then it won't be there later. They delete it. Whether they were wrong and deleted it or they, re-edited it and decided to just repost something different. So if you do see something, take a screenshot because you'll never know when you can use it later. You'll never know when you found a little bit of gold in the old Twitter world that I'm still getting used to. But that would be with any social media post or any thumbnail, anything out there that you can use later on to identify, the truth tellers, right? Or not. Let's see here. Andrew Jackson says, honestly, I believe I may be related. That's awesome. Now let's get rid of Will Harris. Laugh out loud. If they sign him, I might lose it. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Somebody loves Will Harris over there. And I can't figure it out. Yeah, Braylon, I've got 3 or 4 Twitter accounts. Matter of fact, right here, if you look on the screen, it says at Will Rock Jr. Bottom lower left corner of my picture here on screen. There's Rocked On Detroit Lions. There's Rocked On Podcast Network. There's multiple Twitter accounts that don't get used enough. Been heavily onto Facebook. So what's up, Steve K? Welcome in. So just reporting that Jerry Jacobs doesn't appear to be back. And look, we thought, the other day when he put out that cryptic tweet, which said this exactly: you must make a decision that you are going to move on from. It won't happen automatically. You will have to rise up and say, I don't care how hard this is. I don't care how disappointed I am. I am not going to let this get the best of me. I'm moving on with my life. And then now today, the Lions are not picking up his tender. So I think we got the answer. I think Jerry's going to move on. No matter what, he's done, according to his tweet. Now, we sometimes post things out of rashness. Maybe he'll think about it later. Who knows? But at this point, I expect the Lions, again, to upgrade through the draft and free agency. And there's going to be a lot of action this weekend. I think it starts Friday night, if my timing is right. So, Tracy, I'll take a look at it. I appreciate the fact that you trust the information that we put out. And and to answer Braylon too, there's tons of information in the descriptions on the YouTube. Tons of information, all sorts of links, a lot of information in there. So even hiring posts, looking for people to join Rocked On Podcast Network. So, all right, y'all, look, this was a quick one. So tonight, 8 p.m., I have Adam Aniba coming into the show. We're going to be talking about, a little bit of Washington Commanders, football team, some Detroit Lions stuff. This is more of a conversation of scouting perspectives and really what he feels, about the draft and maybe some of the players that are hot on his mind and what he sees. But also talking about the Ben Johnson saga and what he felt transpired there and how he would have felt if Ben Johnson would have been their new head coach. So I think it's going to give us a perspective of what are other people thinking about, our coordinators as future head coaches. I think that a lot of us, know and believe that Ben Johnson will become a good coach at some point. Whether he's going to be great, I don't know. But I think he would be a good coach to start. And when I think of Ben Johnson, I automatically think of McVay. Just young, extremely intelligent, probably reshape the game in a way. That's what I think about Ben Johnson. I just don't know how long it's going to take him to do it. And then Aaron Glenn, I don't know how much we'll spend on Aaron Glenn, but I think Aaron Glenn will end up getting his shot someday. And quite honestly, I think he's a great leader. Maybe not the best play caller at times, but I think he's a great leader. So anyway, we'll be back here tonight, 8 p.m. And you may see me between that time. I've got internet back, so that's a good thing. I can get back to work. Been thriving on a phone all day, and that's not how work gets done. So a couple quick questions here I'll answer. Better the Hunt says, let's see. How long after the tampering period opens up do you think it will take the Lions to announce? So that's the tough one. One, I think they can't officially announce anything for those 3 days. So you have or 52 hours, whatever it is. If it starts on Friday night, and if I think it officially opens up at the 13th at 4 p.m., that's when things can really start to get announced. Now, there's going to be a lot of rumors going on. There's going to be things that are leaked. And that's the fun part of this is there's just going to be a lot of, consuming of data and YouTube videos or Twitter or Facebook or whatever you're on, whatever social platform. And it's going to get things spinning. It's going to be a wild weekend. And we'll know, I think in short order, once the trade deadline officially opens, or trade deadline, once the free agency officially opens, Brad Holmes has always been one of the guys that announces it late. You'll start finding stuff out at 9:30 at night, or midnight. And I think that's what happened with Cam Sutton. I think it was really late. So to answer your question, I think that we'll know after 4 p.m. How long is it going to take for it to come out? I guess it depends on how quickly they can get these deals done, but they'll have a 52-hour window to get some firm deals in place. And Ed W says, regardless of what defense out there, very little confidence of AG coaching anyway. Well, let's see. We'll see what happens this year. I think he'll have a big bounce back year. I do. I think that he'll have a big bounce back year because he's going to have a better team. I think that we were missing some personnel pieces last year. And to your point, regardless, he did make, some pretty big errors at time, from my opinion and many others. But I think he'll get it right. Let's see here. What else do we got in here? Curtis Wilson, hard to get your kids to pass the ASVAB when most kids are kidney gardeners. Yeah. Okay. I'm not following that one, buddy. Brad Holmes always announces between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Yeah, it's crazy. Depends on where you are too. All right. We'll be back 8 o'clock tonight, if not in between. And we'll see you later, Jerry Jacobs, man. Wish you the best. Started out hot last year, but you know what? I'm sorry. I've got to throw the receipts in. I called him a liability from game 1. And then he changed my mind for the next few games. And then after a few more games, I went back to, yep, he's a liability. Can't trust him. And now we are here. And Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes believe the same thing, that he was a liability. And that's why they're not tendering him. And that's why he's not coming back. Again, that's my opinion. Those are not words directly from Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell. So, but that's all I can imagine, that are the reasons. It's based on his play. It's based on his tape. And we know how high they are on both of those things. And when you go back and watch, some of the games, which are pretty hard to watch defensively, he got burned all the time, out of position. And without knowing every play that's called, you can just tell when someone's out of position. You really can. It was that bad. So, all right, y'all. See you, Jerry Jacobs. Best to your life and future, my man. It's nothing personal. It's just reporting. And that's all for Rock Den Detroit Lions. Free agency frenzy is on the move. We'll see y'all tonight.